wait for it, and we're live. Hey, all you crazy sci-fi and fantasy fans. It's time for your daily dose of shenanigans over here at the Blasters and Blades podcast. Just a couple of nerdy veterans and one chaos coordinator geeking out over our science fiction passions and fantastical fantasies. A place where magic is king, the sky is the limit, and space is the place. We are the podcast that puts the fun in dysfunction. So without further ado, we're going to let our guests introduce themselves. So we're going to start and just go to round robin. So Melissa McShane, can you introduce yourself to the viewers at home?
Hi, I'm Melissa McShane. I write many different kinds of fantasy novels. My latest series, the War Master series, is lit RPG fantasy adventure. And I am very excited to be here because The Fifth Element is one of my favorite movies.
It's a good movie. It's a great favorite. And we actually, I ordered the War Hamster for my son.
Yes.
At this point, somebody's got to write the War Hamster for us, just because I keep saying it that way.
I am going to include it, probably not in this one, but in the romance series where it's a bunch of gamer girls in their gaming group. I think I'm going to have them play a one-off of the War Hamster role-playing game. So War Hamster will get there. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Outstanding. All right, Miss Jenna S. Brown, or Jenna Ray, or who knows how many personalities we'll get today.
I don't know yet. It changes week to week. I'm Jenna S. Brown. I write science fiction, urban fantasy, and fantasy under the pen name Jenna Ray. I write other things under other pen names, and we'll see if they're relevant or not. I am excited to be here. I always enjoy hanging out with the Blasters and Blade crew, and this is a funny movie for me because the first time that I saw it, I thought it was the stupidest thing that I'd ever seen, and then it grew on me, and now I kind of heart it with lots of big hearty faces.
Mm-hmm.
That was my take on Galaxy Quest. I felt the same way. The more I watched it, the more I loved it.
Yep.
Okay.
Sometimes they just don't hit initially, but you got to give it a chance.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
All right, next we got Mr. Michael LaVoice.
Hey, Michael LaVoice, author of Galaxy's Most Wanted, soon to have a new series out called Gladius Leagues. I do primarily science fiction. I have dabbled in fantasy, and I will again, I'm sure, at some point. But a longtime fan of this film. Missed it in theaters, caught it later on video. And the visual style of the whole film was just so great. It was so Heavy Metal Magazine that I just fell in love with it. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of this film. I own it on Blu-ray and forced my sons to watch it, and they thought it was stupid. And then they were like, actually, wait, can we go back and look at that part again? That was actually kind of cool.
See, it's a thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right,
grows on you like a fungus.
Yeah.
That's one heck of a mental image. Thanks, Michael. All right, we got Mr. Lynn Barry.
Well, I might be the writer of Ethereal Darkness, but I don't have anything to do with fungi. But I will say that I watched this in the theater. I was that weirdo. I took one friend along. We were both, hey, that was a cool movie. And we're like, why are the rest of these seats empty? I
felt a Green Lantern screen.
I loved it. I watched it again right before this recording started. Can we rant and rave about maybe Mobius being an influence on this? Sure, or whatever you like. I'm game.
Okay, next we got Madam Chloe.
Hello, I am Chloe Garner. I write science fiction, fantasy, urban fantasy, a little bit of dabbling off towards horror. I do all kinds of speculative work, currently closing out a massive fantasy universe and looking forward for the first time in a while. It's fun. So I am excited to discuss a movie that is absolutely absurd on purpose and just goes for it and gets there. I think that's what you miss the first time, is that it gets there. And until you figure that out, it just feels dumb. But it's absolutely a masterpiece. I'm excited.
Are you going to need a moment to process the ending of an era?
I am. I've been doing this for 4 years, JR. This world has been building for 4 years, and I'm going to go do something else. It's weird.
Have you figured out what that something else is going to be yet?
I have a 12-book series planned that I've been waiting on.
Because that's not it.
No.
Because that's not weird.
I mean,
That'll work.
I don't mind a long series, I guess, as long as I know there's going to be an ending.
Mhm.
I don't do those.
Endings?
Endings, no. I end my books. I don't end my series. That doesn't make sense to me. But that's a very separate conversation, I think.
Mm.
I mean, we'll take it, I guess. We can't be.
Mhm.
I guess because the universe continues even after the story ends.
Nobody died. I mean, unless you kill off your whole cast, they're all still capable. And unless you kill off all of the villains, which never kill the devil, that's my first rule. There's still conflict, and these people who have developed all these capacities are going to go off and solve other problems. The series doesn't end. The conflict arc does. The story ends, but the series doesn't end. It doesn't make sense to me.
As a son of the South, what I can tell you is that with the justification he needed killing is a valid excuse. So, I mean, the devil did have it coming. I'm just saying.
Something to be said.
And last but certainly not least, we got Mr. M.D. Bolshari.
No, there's no R-I-E on the end. Don't do that. By the way, has anybody else noticed that Jana's nefarious chuckle sounds very much like Lilu's?
I try. I really do.
Is that
Yeah, that was good. It was great.
No, it's just natural.
Perfect. Yeah, well, there you go. Lilu Dallas Movie Pass. Anyway, MD Boncher, I write 2 different series. One is Akinawazi Saga, a little title in the Icelandic manner using Ojibwe. That is dark epic fantasy, and also Tales from the Dream Nebula, which is a pulp punk science fiction extravaganza. I'm writing it like a television show, so I'm now out of the pilot episode and the first standalone, and we're going to see how she rolls from here on out. But I have a small interruption I'm hoping to submit to Jumpmaster this coming August. So crossing our fingers and hope that would get picked up, because I felt like writing Stompy Robots. So, and of course, since I can't write a genre in any sort of normal conventional matter, a whole bunch of influences got thrown into the blender and hit frappe. Oh, yes. But I'm no longer last. Someone else joined us, but I can still be least if you really want.
Well, he's the host, so everyone knows who he is. But welcome back, Nick. We weren't sure you're going to make it.
Hi, Nick.
Earning that paycheck.
Beachheads in the house.
Dude, I encountered the most pretentious group of Americans known as the Cyclist Club.
Oh my!
I was on mark until I ran into these 50 a-holes in a group on a 2-lane highway, 20 cars behind me, and I'm just like, this road has crosses all along the side of it. Why?
Yeah.
Stop. It's like, geez, you're not going to the Olympics. You're not doing the Tour de France. You're 50 a-holes riding a bike. Good on you. Get the hell out of my way.
And with that, so we've all talked about, obviously, if you're reading the title, this is The Fifth Element. I am going to pull up it's primarily set in the 23rd century. The film's plot revolves around the survival of planet Earth against the incoming darkness, and it becomes the responsibility of Corbin Dallas to escort the Fifth Element to safety or ruin. That is the one of the many ad copies I found, although looking at the ad copy from when it launched in, 1999, I think?
97.
97.
Say 97 sounds right.
So 97 till now, the ad copy has changed and flowed so many times, I can't pinpoint what the original was. So I grabbed the most simple one I could, and we're going to go with it. So with that said, did you feel like the description of the movie on the back of the movie and all of that fit what you saw?
Vaguely.
How can you really encapsulate this movie in a simple description? Because you can describe the plot. Okay. But you could describe the plot, but you're not going to get any of what makes it really great. It's going to be hard to draw somebody in and say, yeah, here's why you should see it. And you read the plot and they're like, yeah, why? So,
because it's a basic plot. It's a plot we've seen before in its broad strokes. We see it all the time. but it's how they did it that makes all the difference.
Right.
It does not invoke bonkers.
No.
And yet,
this
bonkers is what we get.
And this is a fantasy movie set in science fiction, trappings.
Yeah.
So,
it is definite space opera fantasy.
Yes, this is a fantasy movie, and it hits all the fantasy beats. But if you tell somebody that, it's going to be misleading again, because it looks like science fiction. It's got all the trappings of science fiction, and it's just going to be confusing. So I just say, just watch it, and if you hate it, don't ever talk to me again. But okay, I don't do that. But
so I found
go ahead.
Oh, go.
I found the official description on the back of the current movie edition, because they just released in 4K, whatever the heck that's supposed to mean. The newest high def. So there's a new release out available on Amazon. So I'm grabbing that description. In the 23rd century, a New York City cabbie, Corbin Dallas, finds the fate of the world in his hands with Lilo falls into his cab. As the embodiment of the fifth element, Lilo needs to combine with the other four and keep the approaching great evil from destroying the world. Together with Father Vito Cornelius and the zany broadcaster Ruby Rod, Dallas must race against time and the wicked industrialist Zorg to save humanity.
Zany broadcaster might be the biggest understatement of all.
Yeah.
John Baptiste Emmanuel Zorg.
Oh my God, yes.
And I will say that this is what you can expect from Luc Besson. He can make everywhere in the future look like mid 20th century Paris to certain extents.
My all-time favorite scene was when he has the Thai food guy come to his house, and it's like
the junk.
I'm like, I just want to be able to open my window and have the boat just float to me and bring me my food. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
I was trying to remember the actor's name. Kim Chan. Thank you, IMDb. He has been one of my favorite. He is one of my favorite character actors there. I especially loved him as Uncle Benny in Lethal Weapon 4. That one, he was the one in the dentist he was the one in the dentist office getting stoned out of his mind when they broke the laughing gas tank. But he does just a little part, adds so much flavor to the whole thing, and I don't say that because of the Thai food.
The understated value of a character actor that's like supporting cast is often overlooked, because everyone focuses on the big names, but sometimes those little moments can sell a movie.
Well, it's like his mom showing up.
Like the mom's voice, the mom we never see, the mom we never see.
Yeah,
but we all see another.
You don't sound like the president. He's a moron, and you don't sound like a moron.
Yeah, this is Wallowitz action going there.
There's a big name in this movie, and I don't know if he was a big name when it was made, but to me, Gary Oldman is the greatest character actor of our time.
He was big even then. I
mean, I once saw
he had just done The Professional.
I saw an interview with him on Graham Norton where he had to go perform in a film where he was supposed to be from his hometown. And he'd done so much since leaving that place, he'd forgotten his original accent. And they had to hire a coach to reteach him his own accent because he'd gotten so diverse with everything. It's just, I can't get enough of Gary Oldman, man. Everything from Pontius Pilate to an insane peacock.
And him, and him and David Bowie were best of friends because they grew up in the same neighborhood, if I recall correctly.
I didn't know that.
There is a connection between the two, and they both had the same complaint about losing their accent over time.
Oh my God.
Before we dive too in the weeds, let's start with when and where were you when you first found the movie and watched it? And we're going to start with you, Nick, since you're at the top. Just going to go round robin.
I was in Fort Lewis, Washington, and I saw it on base.
Okay. When was that? When it came out or sometime after?
No, that's when it came out.
Okay. Yeah. What about you, Miss Melissa?
I did see it in theaters. I saw it with my brother, and we got in a little late. So we missed the whole thing at the beginning with the ship and what we saw. Basically, we came in when Luke Perry was shooting at the alien. And so we were a little bit like, oh, what's going on? But it's surprisingly easy to pick up what happens. You know, the plot is really not that hard to follow. So we missed some of the beautiful visuals in Egypt, but it didn't blow our enjoyment at all. But it was not a full theater, as I recall. It was. I mean, there were plenty of people, but it was not a full theater. And I think even then, you know, it was like kind of a niche, and I don't know that they advertised it really adequately. I mean, it is too bad we don't have that original copy to know how they were advertising it. But we were blown away. I mean, you see it in the theater. That was impressive. That was one of the movies that I am really glad I got to see on the big screen, because it's just phenomenal.
I bet it was.
The visuals are just gorgeous.
Was Luke Perry a big name when this was filming already?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh,
yes.
yeah.
90210. Yes.
That was
He was absolutely
Luke Perry.
That's why his tiny little part gets credited, because he was a big enough name that he could push for that, even though he's barely in the movie. But he's up there on the title credits, and he was a very big name. I mean, which was why it was so funny to see him there, because, you know, we didn't really expect to. He was a TV star, so
yeah,
I don't know.
A good part though,
well, and a teen angst TV star.
Yeah,
completely off brand. Completely off brand. It was a weird.
Definitely not his thing.
He was so trying to break out from being cast as that character, the teen angst character. I mean, don't forget, in that same period, he also was in Tombstone as sort of the hangers-on to Billy Zane's character in that. So
he was trying, but it was kind of a surprise to see him.
That was the other one. That was the other dude.
No, it was Luke Perry.
No, it wasn't Luke Perry. It was the other guy.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, that was Jason Priestley.
Okay.
Oh,
Jason Priestley, the other guy.
Yeah. Okay. That makes more sense to me.
Okay. Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, that was my experience. It was really great. Yeah.
All right. What about you, Jana? When and where did you first see it?
So mine is entirely different, because this thing totally missed my radar when it first came out. But I have no idea why, but whatever they were advertising, it missed me. And so I first saw it several years later, and it was on television. And the reason it caught my attention is because my stupid brothers were in there snickering over the girl running around in the bandage outfit, making the kind of comments that teenage brothers make when you've got somebody who is running around in little more than a bunch of bandages. And so, like I say, I watched parts of it at that point and went, this is by far the stupidest thing that I've ever seen. And it's only designed to make my teenage brothers go, ooh, she's only wearing bandages. Ha, ha, ha. You can see her boobs. It was just like, oh, man, who put this thing together? And so it wasn't until probably a couple years after that I actually sat down and went, okay, I have friends who are raving about this thing, and they're generally, you know, pretty smart about these things, that friend, and went, okay, we'll give it a shot from beginning to end, and try to not bring into it the little brothers snickering over the bandages and the boobs. And when I watched it in a different setting, it was like, oh, I get it. I suddenly understand why everybody had the thing, but you had to see it in context that was not your teenage brothers going snicker, snicker, snicker.
Boobs.
Because boys.
I mean, I get it though.
I know. Every man I know who has seen it says they understand why my brothers were snickering, but that is not the best part of the movie.
I don't know. That's kind of it's a good part of the movie.
It's a good part of the movie, but all right, Mr. Michael LaVoice, when and where did you first find this movie?
I, like Jenna, I totally missed it when it first came out. Didn't even know it existed. I think I saw an ad for it once, and I was kind of done with Bruce Willis for the moment, because he was fresh off of Hudson Hawk, which I thought was like one of the dumbest things I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
I was like, no,
How dare you diss the Hawk? Right, that was a great movie.
No, I later learned to appreciate some of Hudson Hawk later, but like I said, I was just kind of done with Bruce Willis for a while, so I just didn't pay any attention. And then a few years later, I think I found it in a discount bin, like the $5 DVD bin somewhere. Nice. And I said, I never saw this. I give it a shot. It's only $5. What's the worst? I'd just give it away. And watched it, and I was just like, dude, the visual stylings of this movie. It's like Heavy Metal Magazine from holy crap. How did I not see it? And then it was just like watch and rewatch and rewatch. And who doesn't love the scene with the meth head? You know, who doesn't love the best line in the movie? Anybody else want to negotiate? You know, I mean, you just fall in love with the whole thing. And multipass, you know, that was like my group of friends after we watched. I was so enamored with it. I got all my friends over. We got to watch this together. You guys got to see this. And half of them had already seen it. Where you been, boys? You know,
are you classified as a human? Negative. I'm
a meat popsicle.
I'm a meat popsicle. Yes. But yeah, so that was my experience with it. Totally just on a regular screen, but just the visual stylings. I mean, yeah, it's got plot holes you can drive a truck through. Yeah, it's got some characters of homicide. Looking at you, Chris Tucker. But aside from that, it's probably the quirkiest film from the late 90s. And I think that's one of the reasons it has so much staying power.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. What about you, Lynn? When and where did you first discover the movie?
You know, like I said earlier, I was that theater goer. I mean, granted, I didn't go by myself. I went with my buddy DJ.
Hi, DJ.
He, you know, we were like, you know, we got nothing else to do. I saw that this crazy looking movie was going to be on. You know, they had Mangalores in the preview. They looked cool. They had the Monashewans in the preview. They looked like they were going to be bad guys. They're barely in it, and they're good guys. Oh, okay, that's a cool twist.
That was a great twist.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. Just the design of everything is like, all right, I'm curious enough to catch a cheap show, so let's do it. And yeah, empty theater, but who cares? I was having fun. He was having fun.
It did not stay empty for long, though.
No, it stayed pretty empty. Yeah, we enjoyed it and discussed afterward, and then eventually down the road we're like, yeah, she's got a crazy bandage outfit on too. But we had more than just that one discussion, so I can say that much about it.
Okay.
And that was long before I discovered anything of the Inkle or Mobius or any of that mess, because this is a giant ripoff of that. In a good way.
Lots of influences from lots of different franchises, like those spaceships, totally Star Destroyers. But I didn't care. Yeah. So Madam Chloe Gardner's first of her name. How did you first find the movie, and where did you watch it?
I watched it in college. It was one of those that really was not anywhere near my strike zone for a movie. I was still in my I want to go watch Pirates of the Caribbean again, please, sort of an era. And I had some guy friends that were the kind of guys that would watch Undercover Brother 3 times back to back. I did not trust their taste in anything. And they insisted I must watch this movie. You must watch this movie. And I'm like, you guys are idiots. And you're fun, so I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch this, but I am not expecting anything. And going into it, it's like, oh yeah, I'm not gonna get anything out of it. This thing is absurd, it is bonkers, it is off the wall. And you get through to the end of it, and it's like, okay, no, I can't say it in front of you because I made fun the whole way through. I can throw on this one in front of you, but it was a great movie. That it's still a little bit outside of my absolute core box of movies, but it's just such an outstanding movie for quotability and for the distinctiveness of the visuals and for the distinctiveness of the characters running around, that it doesn't matter. It's still one of the greats, and you can't ignore that. It doesn't matter if it's not really the thing that you were looking for. It's its own thing.
Yeah.
You were about to say something, LaVoice, before Chloe was telling us. What was that before we?
She was talking about Lynn was talking about the somebody mentioned the ships.
Yes, that was me.
Yes.
And I was just like, I had to remember that I was looking some stuff up earlier, and I saw that Luc Besson approached Jean-Claude, I can't do his last name, Mézières, cartoonist who did My Fifth Element, and also of the Valerian series,
Mhm.
the cartoonist. And he said he wanted to use his visual stylings, but he wouldn't rip him off like George Lucas did.
Oh, there you go.
I'm going to give you credit for it. I'm not going to rip you off like Lucas did.
Uh-huh.
And it's true because Lucas ripped off Vader and Leah's middle bikini and all kinds of stuff straight out of Mezier's stuff. And I think that's probably didn't Mobius have a run in heavy metal?
Oh,
Huge.
very much.
Mobius is one of the big names that was first featured in Metal Hurlant.
Yeah, and so that whole vibe permeates the film, and I love the aliens, the differences, and the great big metal ones in the beginning, and the pyramid scene, and then the space orc looking ones,
The Mangalores.
Yeah. I can't remember any of the names because I didn't get a chance to watch it before this podcast. Just looked some stuff up, but but I just thought it was funny that he actually said, "Hey, I'm going to use your stuff, but it's okay. I'm going to let everybody know it was yours."
It's okay this time because.
All right, and last but certainly not least, again we have MD Boncher. I'm going to say it every time just cause.
Anyway. I don't remember when I saw it. I just know I saw it when it came out because I saw the commercial. It was like, oh, that's kind of cool. And I was already a space opera junkie to begin with. And then I started seeing the cast. Okay, I like Bruce Willis. I don't know who this Mila Jojo, whatever.
Nobody did.
Yeah, nobody. That was her big breakout role. It did help that, well,
she broke out of her clothes. That helped. Yes.
He went there. Yeah, and then of course Luc Besson. He really had me going on that because I'd just seen The Professional, and he was just like, "Oh, I got to see what this is." And I do remember.
You're right. I just placed this character in The Professional. It just hit me. You're right. I'd forgotten.
Yep. Yeah, and exactly. And all these, and then I started. When I went to see the movie, I remember watching it and going, "Oh, hey, it's that guy on just about everybody." And and then of course you get the big names that are sort of sneaking in there, like Ian Holm, and then Gary Goldman sort of walks. I was like, "Send me everyone," Just the flashbacks were coming hot and heavy, and then you get just blindsided by Chris Tucker doing his breakout role.
Oh my gosh,
what's the first thing you hear out of the guy's mouth? Corbin Dallas! You're like, what? What was this? What am I getting yelled at by an air raid siren for? But it was so entertaining. That was, and he's the only human I've ever heard scream like a tea kettle.
Let's talk about how prescient Besson was creating a character who just randomly live streams stuff that he's doing.
The first
that's
way
true.
before
it's a good point.
TV.
It's a scheduled live
good
stream.
point.
Yeah. Well, by the way, would you guys like some good news?
Sure.
Who here has heard of Fathom Events?
No.
Okay, they're a company that does lots of old movies in movie theaters all over the nation.
Yeah.
The Fifth Element is being reshown on the big screen on November 17th and 20th this year.
Ooh.
Nice.
All right. Yeah, go see it. I highly recommend you see it on the big screen if you can. Absolutely.
It'll show up at the Memphis Summer Drive-In. We have a drive-in here every summer.
Ooh, even better.
They'll do a block of theme movies like zombies one night, and then it's something else. And, they'll probably do a sci-fi spectacular and feature that if it's.
Fathom Events is just finishing up their Studio Ghibli series, so I unfortunately missed out on all that. But yeah, that's how I saw the 80th anniversary of the African Queen on the big screen.
80?
Yep, the 80th.
80.
I'm sorry. Now I feel really old.
Yep.
I just introduced my wife to Peter Ustinov as Hercule Poirot in Evil Under the Sun.
Oh,
he had never seen that version.
Nice.
I've only seen him in the one they just remade.
Death on the Nile.
Yeah, and the other one before that,
Murder on the Orient
Express. And by the way, just to punch you guys in the age gland, Rear Window's 70th anniversary is going to be playing next month, and followed by Blazing Saddles' 50th.
No. No, no. I'm not going to
No.
believe that. I'm sorry. No, that's not
Go
How about
away.
this? Mean
You're a
Girls
mean
20th?
man.
Make
So-
him stop. Somebody else talk now, because he's mean.
All right, JR,
you can
talk.
go.
So I was gonna say,
Yeah,
I
JR.
actually had never heard of it. I was in high school when this was going on, and I was busy doing the whole sports thing and chasing girls. So this movie missed me. I actually watched it for the first time on the road back, or on the plane back from Iraq from R&R, and then I was so exhausted I caught the beginning. I'm like, this looks kind of cool. It's like Stargate, and then I fell asleep because it was the Egypt scene, and so I finally rewatched it after I got home, and I was like, this is not the Stargate movie. I
Not
remember.
even a little bit.
But it was
Not
good.
even
Yeah, the first time I watched it was when we were coming home from R&R. So it would have been summer of 05. And then I watched it finally while I was home after that. So
Mhm.
all right, but before we get too far afield and everyone starts talking again, we're going to pause for a moment while we shamelessly shill for the man, and then we'll jump right back in. We'll get talking about this movie some more. All right.
35 awesome stories started by one kick-ass meme. It started as a joke. Storm Area 51, they said. They can't stop all of us, they said. But all laughter has stopped when the U.S. Air Force mobilized and pulled out the big guns. However, relentless mockery and derision by the media and the powers that be pushed the dweebs and alien enthusiasts too far. What else were they supposed to do? They said why not, and showed up, determined to find out what secrets were hidden behind the walls of the clandestine government facility. Are you brave enough to buy this anthology today? If you are, find out what the government wants to keep hidden. Read Storming Area 51, a Bayonet Books anthology.
All right. Thank you for sticking with us through that commercial interlude. And with that, we are back. So we've talked about where we first found the movie and when we first watched it. So overall, production value, what did you guys think of like the cinematography?
For its time, first of all, let's remember, this was the most expensive movie of its era, not shot in Hollywood, not a Hollywood production. And they spent a lot of that on visual effects. The New York City sky traffic scenes alone were top notch for the time. And they're still good. They still hold up to stuff you see now. Fun fact, all the license plates that they never zeroed in on all said the same thing.
By the
New
way,
York,
it's still, if I remember
the
correctly,
FU
still,
state is what they said.
I will say, at least unless something has come up recently, it is still the highest grossing French film of all time.
Yes.
Really?
I think that's right.
Yep.
All right.
Well, and one of the nice things, it was still at the point where we got a really good balance, because some of the science fiction we get now, the CGI is so omnipresent that you lose some of that sense of reality. And when you watch this, it felt real. It felt lived in, even though you cognitively knew that this is a spaceship and this could never happen. But then, they shoot them into the little capsules and it's just like hotels in Japan. And you're like, there's enough reality there that we went, I believe that this is a lived in 23rd century kind of place, because it felt like home just later. So I love that balance between the practicality and the effects.
Yeah.
I thought they balanced the absurdity of it all, but when it comes to cinematography, like the opening sequence where it's bouncing around between the bad guys, the preacher trying to get into the ship, them burning all the little critters to sort of foreshadow the danger for him, and then the scene with Ruby Road or whatever,
Rod.
and his scene with the girl, and then the feet coming up right as the ship is like all of that.
The suggestions are so great.
Back and forth,
so smooth. And it told us such a compelling story of the launch sequence without showing anything. I mean, like, you can't beat that with modern films. I've never seen anything done in such a way.
No.
They do lots of little editing tricks like that. I mean, they do so many of those editing tricks. One fun thing I found out many years ago was there's literally exactly only one shot in the entire movie where the main cast is in the same shot. Just one.
Really?
It's when all the protagonists are leaving the hotel right before it explodes, and Zorg walks in right as they leave the room.
That's the actual
right, on the
Right.
elevators. Yeah.
The funny thing about that scene, though, is that's when Corbin Dallas and Zorg are on the same scene because he worked for that guy's company. If you remember, he owned
Yeah, he was in the
Pepsi
cab company.
too,
Yeah.
and he
Another
was in the
cool
same
thing.
scene with his boss, essentially.
Another cool thing
That's
about
the only scene where our main hero is in the same room with the main villain. That's
and they
it.
still didn't meet.
And they didn't
Nope.
meet. They passed.
Passing.
Very Star Trek too in that regards.
Yeah.
Kirk
Yes,
and,
very
Kirk and
Star
Khan
Trek
were
too
never
in
in
that
the
regard.
same
Yeah.
But
scene
Kirk and Khan had met, so big
They
difference.
Well,
and they had a conversation.
They had history.
Zorg never knew
Yeah.
Corbin Dallas's name. Never knew it.
mhm.
Just
No, he
Cool.
he did because he had he heard the spies, and that's how he sent the person as
True.
Corbin,
Okay, he knew the name, but he didn't know
that they
the
worked for him
person.
or
He didn't
anything
know
Yeah,
else.
he wouldn't have
face or anything
recognized
like
him.
that.
Yeah.
No.
No.
The only picture he would have had was his old service picture that's on his multipass, which is absolutely ridiculous.
Yes.
Well, I mean, there's it's possibility he might recognize him because remember, if you look at his apartment of his military record, he has the Federation Medal of Honor. So, assuming that is still a big deal then, like it is now, presumably there was some sort of fanfare when he was awarded it. But the balance of that is, well, he was also secret, like special squirrel, because he mentioned he's the only living survivor of his unit. So it's possible maybe it's classified. I don't know. It could go either way,
Yeah.
but they never said.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well,
You can't talk
my
about-
point is that any picture that Zorg
Right,
would have
right.
had, he wouldn't have lined up with the guy that came out the door he just walked through.
Right.
Yep.
Mhm.
You can't
Why
talk about
was-
the cinematography without talking about the color. The
Oh, yeah.
color in this
Oh, I-
movie is just
Mhm.
astonishing. To pull it off without it being distracting, it's iconic, but it
Mhm.
not a character in the movie. Nobody points at it. Nobody recognizes that it's there, that it's weird. The hair colors and the hairstyles are
Mhm.
bonkers.
The costumes.
Well,
Nobody
that's all due to the
ever
fact
looks
that
at it.
it was Jean-Paul Gaultier that was the costume designer for that, and he basically got told, "I want you to do the wildest future that you can kind of think of," and he basically got carte blanche. That's why you see one of the first heavy uses of some of the more materials that now are kind of commonplace, and with the microfiber latex and things like that. That's the first time you see it. Even if you look at it, the men are also wearing those same fabrics, especially Zorg's suit and Corbin's A shirt or whatever.
Yeah, that orange thing that he wore. Yeah.
Well, it's actually it's the white T-shirt too. It's the white T-shirt.
Yes, the white T-shirt, but the
It's
orange thing is
amazing.
what I remember. Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. That
One of
orange
the
thing.
things that I thought was funny is a lot of times the eye candy was in movies is just for the dudes. It's the half-dressed women. If you notice, Zorg's bodyguards are wearing skin-tight leather pants on the.
They are.
So they got the beefcakes for the ladies. It wasn't leather.
No, that was latex.
Okay.
Yeah, like I said, it was one of the
Still
first
tight.
movies that really pioneered it, and did it in a way that you don't see.
I think something that contributed to the overall brightness of the film that Chloe was talking about is that Bisson insisted that almost every shot be done in the daytime. He was very weary of dark, oppressive film techniques. And so he insisted all the shots be done during the daytime, which of course gives the film an overall brightness that a lot of sci-fi and fantasy doesn't have. You look at, especially the modern aesthetic right now, how many movies, if you sat there on your TV on Netflix or whatever going, I can't see anything.
Oh my gosh.
Why are they
Especially for those of us who are getting older. Like,
That is
and there's no contrast. And here that was all contrast because you had those bright oranges, but then you had these rich blues, you had gold, you had colors and distinctness that was such a contrast that you can glance at the screen and you can tell where they are, what's going on, all these other things that are happening, who it is that's going on versus, like you say, a lot of modern ones you look at it and it's like, which guy is that? And my mother will ask me, we're watching a movie. Which one is which one? I'm like, I have no idea. They're both in the same color and it's dark. And this movie had none of that. You knew Cornelius is in brown and Lulu is in one color, and all of that was very, very visually. You could tell exactly who was where, what they were doing, what they stood for. It just so beautifully done.
They even use shapes a lot for that. They had
Like that hat?
When Zurg was on the screen, more often than not, there was a circle behind him.
Yeah.
And generally,
a big window.
A big window or some kind of circle. And when Dallas is on screen, he's usually framed in a rectangle, either a door frame or some other kind of boxy shape. And I don't know what he was trying to convey with that, but it's one of the things that you notice. The more you watch it, it's like, wow, there's always a circle behind.
I think it was probably just more of a visual cue to the audience of this is who this is, and that's how he framed him. So he associates those shapes. I do that in comic books all the time.
So you also see the circles with Corbin, because there are circles everywhere for when you deal with the Judge Dredd wannabe cops. Like put your hands on there and assume the position.
With the huge circle on the costume.
Yeah,
found it. The circles represent authority.
The circles are indicative of Mr. Shadow, the dark evil planet,
the orb.
The orb, whatever you want to call the actual bad guy.
What do you call it? But he's
Speaking of, that's a big ball in space.
What I really like, speaking of, is when they have the scene where the cops come to get Corbin, and he has them thinking they're at his house when they're at the tweaker's house next door. So, so the tweaker is like mouthing off to the cops, and Corbin's like, shouldn't have done that. They go in.
Yeah, and something else to think of also, since cinematography, think of the framing that happens when you get to the cruise ship. I mean, Luc Besson did such a wonderful job. I mean, that first time you see where Lilu goes, wow, and she's just looking up at it, and you're like, I just remember going, oh, okay, I can tell where the mat started, but I don't care. This is just fantastic use as the camera rose up. But then, of course, we've gone this far without mentioning one of the best framed and laid out scenes of all, and that is Plava Laguna. We have not touched that one scene right there. Set all of Fifth Element completely apart. I mean, it's already apart, but it suddenly said, "Oh, shit, hold my beer and hold on." Boom! You get an opera piece that apparently only a very few women could even sing on top of it all, from a rare but absolutely beautiful opera in this absolutely gorgeous character makeup. And it's so iconic. I mean, you see the shot and you're just like, boom, I can hear the music. I can hear the music and everything. And then to go, okay, and this is the future, so we're going to techno this sucker up a little at the end. And that's the only time you hear any sort of auto-tune kick in. And
the singer that did that said she was an actual opera singer, and she said she read the music the guy gave her, and she said no human voice can reproduce these notes in this order at that speed. And so what they did was they used a recording trick pioneered by Mel Blanc, is they recorded the notes separately and then strung them together the way they needed them to be. And so that's where you get that auto-tune kind of odd automated sound to it. And so the actress that they chose to do the lip syncing didn't even show up. And so Besson's girlfriend at the time ended up putting on the makeup. And so it was like, well, good thing she was there, I guess.
Yeah. Well, and then to overlay a combat to that.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. Because that going back and forth, where you're going from this thing, and you can see how it's affecting Dallas and how it, all of what's going on this one side. And then on the other side, we have Lilu just kicking the crap out of guys, which worked so well until the guns came out, which was
kicking the teeth out of those dudes.
Done.
It was the one time that she was the perfect weapon, as she's been complained to be through this whole movie. And then at the end, I'm sure all the rest of you, but I felt like doing just like Corbin, stand up. Let's have standing ovation just to this one song.
It was a great gestalt theory in regards to the shooting, because the combat blended with the music and vice versa.
They did that throughout the movie, though, the cutting back and forth of the scenes like that in ways that flowed. Most of the time when they cut back and forth, it's jarring and it's kind of disjointing.
Right.
You need a few moments to recenter yourself. This one, it flowed smoothly. It was smooth like butter.
I've only seen one other director pull it off quite as smoothly as that, and that is Edgar Wright, who is probably the best of it at all.
So we hinted at it a little bit with the cinematography stuff, but what did you guys think about the set and costuming?
Oh wow! You know what?
Still
you
some
know
of the
what
best.
setting really gets me is the New York City, the spaceport, and the garbage.
The
And
garbage.
it is so beautiful because you've got that absolute wall of garbage just piled up there, and then the contrast with the high tech, you know, the lady taking the tickets, and you got the little multi-pass slot, you stick it in there, but they've got a garbage problem. And it's also, I mean, back to the cinematography, it's the color thing again, because that's very dull. And then you've got the flight attendant ticket lady, and she's in that purple outfit, and she's very, you know, dramatically made up, and so you have that balance. And I love when they do that in this movie, when there's the contrast between the color and the dullness. I think it makes it draws attention to, and it's another one of those realistic details, because he could have just made it be a spaceport, but he's like, no, we're going to make it be a pit of garbage as well. And that really works because it's suddenly something more real. It's more solid.
Yeah.
And then you get the Rastafari ground crew.
Yes.
Yeah.
Going after bumbleball
parasites.
parasites with flamethrower. That was just such a hilarious touch.
But even the garbage is bonkers.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you look at it, it's not garbage bags and it's not bits of refuse from takeaway food. No, it's giant air ducts full of disgorging what? What is going on here, and where did it come from?
Big city, big problems.
And why was this where they stored it? Why was this where it came to? I mean, whose garbage is this? And then they go diving into it, and you know it can't be stinky because nobody's reacting like it's stinky, but it would be, wouldn't it? I mean, it must not be food. So what is it? But it looks beautiful.
Well,
in a really gross way.
Given the state of the city, maybe they're all just nose blind to it. I've heard people visit like New York and Chicago that say it smelled, but people live there don't seem to notice.
I read in the trivia. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say a quick little aside here regarding that scene is the right arm, Zorg's guy trying to impersonate Dallas. You might not have known that, but that actually was one of the most famous techno artists of that era, Tricky.
Really?
I didn't. Yeah, it was one of the few roles. Yeah, and I think he helped also a little bit with some of the tracks, or at least one of them he had probably done up for.
Cool.
But yeah,
I knew the name. I had no idea it was him, because like techno guys, like a lot of musicians that do the electronic music, you have no idea what they look like.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Like artists.
I was gonna say, you guys kept mentioning the garbage, and there was a scene that was cut. There was a group of aliens that were the garbage workers that were actually on strike. I read in the trivia that they had signs of them saying "on strike," standing in front of the garbage, and for some reason that whole scene got cut. But a whole crap ton of the extras in the windows and stuff in the New York City sequences are actually employees of Digital Domain, the people that were responsible for the visual effects.
Nice.
So they not only did the effects, they got to be in the movie, which is kind of
fun.
Nice.
Yeah, that is pretty cool.
Yeah. Hey, stand over here. Oh, cool. Okay.
Yeah.
I get to be
you got it.
Movie.
I got another point on where it was the setting and all the same points really come together. And it's not one you really expect. It's the beginning of the movie. It's not lit the same. There is nothing.
It's the only
CG
dark one
about that opening. Nothing. All practical. It's all naturalistic. It's like, hey, this could be Stargate. It's lit like Stargate. It's not Stargate, but the moment where it's not lit like that anymore is Aziz light and big light.
And then it's sort of like, ooh, here we're transitioning.
Yeah.
And the fun thing is, the kid was falling asleep, and you cut to Luke Perry, and he's got Aziz and hashtags on how many times.
Oh, counting every time he says it.
Yes, I got your snakes.
It shows how things have changed, and yet at the same time, it has enough of those, for lack of a better term, elements there that ties it all together. It's like, here are the stakes of it all. This guy we thought was going to be a murderous fiend is actually the progenitor of the heroic movement that we're going to have. Cool. Okay.
The other thing the other thing that stood out about that scene is they cut where you can actually look at what Luke Perry's supposed to be drawing, and it just looks like stick figures. Like that art was laughably bad. And then suddenly, when he sees before he pulls his pistol and he sees the thing, and he's drawing like a raven that looks nothing like the robot. So like, this guy was hired for his art.
That was cool though. You mentioned practical effects, and this, another thing I love about this is all the aliens were practical effects, and they even found ways to save money and work new effects into the aliens, like the combat goggles that the what do they call it? The space orc guys? I can't remember their name.
Mangalores.
That's the one.
Oh yeah, Mangalores.
The combat goggles they wore were to cover up the fact that their masks didn't have eyes. They were big holes and you could see their human eyes through the mask. So they didn't have to spend money on contacts or on editing those out or anything.
It's clever.
Just put goggles on them.
Yeah.
Works.
Cool.
It's very clever.
Yep. I just also found it absolutely crazy that Tiny Lister, of all people, was made the president. The guy that's known for playing thugs and villains.
President Debo.
Oh, you mean my chain?
And that accent. I mean, he didn't even try to gussy it up. He's still talking tough. I thought it was great.
Oh yeah, I mean, he was going full President Camacho in certain respects. Years
He
before.
also did, like, he had the presidential thing where he's talking to Corbin Dallas, and he's like, "No, get to the point where you tell me what you want. Cut the crap."
Yeah.
That was a funny one. So, what did you guys think when they first walked into the Love Boat? That essentially was the space version of it.
Oh, it was so much fun because it did pull that Love Boat, going to Hawaii. It was all the vacation things, and so it matched our expectations because again, it was the familiar in a really, really strange place. They're putting flowers on them, and I'm like, I've seen this. This has been a thing. So it's that familiar in a strange place. And we talk about costumes, and Ruby Rob's costumes are amazing.
That hair,
probably some of the most beautiful costumes through the entire thing are the ones that he's wearing,
and not just the paint roller hair.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I like the hat the tweaker had in the beginning, which looked like it was just a sheet of metal. He's making fun of me for the hat, and the guy's dancing because now the other guy, Corbin Dallas, has his gun. He's like, "You like it?" And he starts dancing.
Yeah. I wonder. There are times I wonder if that actually was a just sort of a we left the camera running kind of thing.
Yeah, maybe, because I can see it.
Yeah, it could have been anything.
Bruce Willis is not known for improvisation on scenes, but
so speaking of Floats in Paradise, where the ship was, the spaceship that hovered over the planet and then went into space. What did you think of that one, Nick? You've been silent tonight.
Yeah, because I got home and I had like other things I tried to do until those damn cyclists got involved, and I would have had enough time to get them done. But it made me think about, because I'm a mariner for work, so that's what I do. And flotsam and jetsam, those are both terms for litter in the ocean.
Yep.
So we talked about the garbage earlier in New York City, so I'm assuming they're going to a landfill planet. And I thought that was funny. Like I didn't understand at the time until I started doing working on the water and becoming a mariner.
Yeah.
But after that, and we watched that movie like 2 or 3 times every year, because it was marketed as in '99 because it came out before Episode 1. It came out before The Phantom Menace, and it was marketed as the movie Star Wars fans have been waiting for. So me being in 1999 I was 21 years old. As a 20-year-old kid, I was like, "Oh, I love Star Wars. I gotta watch this." So,
So what did you think of the nautical scenes where they had like the Master and Commander vibes? Obviously, Master and Commander came out in 2003, so this was before it. But like the seagoing vibe to the spaceship, where the guy's standing behind the wheel, and he can literally, like, he's standing 3 feet in front of him, but he shouts at him like what the directions are.
What about the cleaning off the parasites off of the landing gear?
Yeah, yeah.
Remember that scene?
Like
That
rats.
was great.
Barnacles.
It was like
Old
barnacles
school
Only-
or
only,
bilge rats. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, those were a popular toy at the time, though.
Yeah,
They
Bumbleballs.
but yeah, Bumbleballs, and there was another one. Boglins. Boglins. That's what they were.
Those two.
There were two different toy types they used for those things. And I'm saying, look, they're cleaning parasites off the ship. That's great. It was awesome. I loved it. Because
And then
who hasn't seen a sci-fi story where you've got some kind of critter that's gotten on board?
Yeah.
Go back to Star Wars Empire Strikes Back. That whole center section is about, what's out on the ship, and the Minox are on the ship, and this is bad, and
This is no cave.
Yeah.
We are the parasites, only we're
Dinner.
You mentioned Chris Tucker's costumes as his character was so outlandish. But he said in an interview that he had no idea. He was given no direction on how to play this character. All he knew was that they had thought it would be a combination of Michael Jackson and Prince. And Prince was actually approached for the role and turned it down.
Yeah, I read that.
So
I read that on
he
IMDb.
said once he got in the costumes, he was fine. The costumes created the character for him.
How he moved
quite a bit.
was crazy. It was over the top.
Yeah.
It brought the whole personality together.
Mm-hmm.
And I liked at the end when they're off the ship and they just survived. They didn't die. This is before they're told the ball of death is coming at them. And he goes, "Okay, now go to the news because the show is finally over." So it was the show.
He's been doing it the whole time.
This was my best show ever.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
and that little mic was that part of the costume. It was always the mic, or else he used the stick for a while. The staff.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
the
he
little
has
Britney
stick,
Spears head
he's kind of
piece.
a little bit David Bowie.
Yeah.
It's like he's channeling all these different forces of, pop stars and pop radio and
And I got to say, I thought for sure I was going to hate Chris Tucker's role because I thought it was kind of cheesy, and I loved what he did with it and never felt annoyed. And he made a career out of playing that kind of character. Maybe never to the extreme of Ruby Rod, but all the movies he was in at the time, he had that sort of fast talking, jive talking, rapid fire delivery, and it really worked for him. I'm still not sure why.
He had said in an interview how he kind of came up with the character. First, he mentioned the costume. Once he was in the costume, he was able to come up with the character Ruby Rod. But what he said, essentially what it is y'all remember Smokey from Friday? Well, that's him dialed to 11. And
I could see that.
And that makes sense. When you watch it in that aspect, you're like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. Because who doesn't love Smokey from Friday?
Yeah, he's our viewpoint character in a lot of places where he's narrating exactly what we're watching, and so it's really natural to kind of see him and go, oh, this is the guy who I'm watching. He's my lens, and he talks about things that you're like, yes, that's how I would feel. Where he's like, what's going on? What's going on? Thinking, yeah, that would be me. And then I don't have any fire. What am I supposed to do? It's like,
well, and more than that, if you notice, the president and all the military are sitting around listening to his broadcast, so that's how they know what's going on. So you have that iconic scene where he said, "I need someone to negotiate." Corbin Dallas takes in, fires one shot, and the president's like, "Who taught him to negotiate?"
And the general's kind of like,
My favorite part of that movie, though, I think, was the scene where they're trying to get him to take the job in the beginning, and there's this very big Helga type German woman.
Major Iceborg.
She's like
Princess Leia buns.
The princess, but she's just a monster of a woman, and he's like, "You'll take her."
I'm not going.
That was just funny.
Well, what I find interesting also is who played the general, Brian James. He of course, I always kind of watch out for him because he's in my favorite movie of all time, Blade Runner, as Leon, the custodial worker. And so he's been in a couple sci-fi classics.
Oh yeah, he's sci-fi established as a character actor, and he usually plays either a bad guy or the really weird guy. Mostly bad guys is what I remember from him. But Yeah, when I saw that, I was like, is he gonna be the bad guy? Because like I'd already typecast him in my head, and he wasn't. He was kind
yeah.
of the bad guy. He was
I also
Yeah.
like
not the bad guy, but
the some of the humor, like some of it was over the top, but some of it was really subtle. So like Corbin Dallas is carrying Lilu in to see the father of Vito, and he's got her passed out in his arms, and he's just carrying her in, and he goes, weddings are downstairs. Like the idea that these drunk people are showing up to marry an unconscious woman. And then when the tough guys show up in their their latex body shorts looking beefcakey, and he's telling those guys like they're going to go downstairs to get married too. And it's hilarious.
Yeah, that's great. You're right. I shouldn't have done that.
Yeah.
Well, and the way that technology goes wrong in Dallas's apartment is both humorous, and who has not had some of those thoughts about, if your shower could move up and down, because I've seen a lot of sci-fi where you look at it and you go, if that folds up into the wall, what happens if you're in that? And they embrace that to go, yes, and now you've been wrapped up in the bed. Now you're stuck in the shower. Now you're all of those things. And I've got a good buddy who, if something weird like that's going to happen, it's going to happen to him. And so I've heard the stories of him getting in a shower in China and hitting the button that looks like a bug, and suddenly it lights up red and starts making a noise because it's actually the cleaning cycle, and he can't get out. He is about to be cleaned to death in a Chinese shower. And I'm thinking the movie at that point, it's like they're all stuffed in that dumb little shower. And
this man should never visit a capsule hotel.
No.
Big excuse for her to take her shirt off so they could get that rating. But the other funny part of that scene was when he shoved those 3 military people into the fridge. And
they're all frozen.
Sure you will.
I mean, how did you not kill the general?
Yeah, I don't know. But I was just laughing.
You rigged
I know
the
a couple of
contest?
generals I would like to freeze.
Yes. You rigged the vote or the contest, and he goes, "Yeah,
Sometimes
it was
the old
easy."
tricks are the best tricks.
That's right.
That movie is so infinitely quotable too. That's part of its real magic.
And the costuming is so iconic that I've only been to 5 cons, and every one of them there's someone doing Fifth Element.
There's a Lilu or a Corbin out there, or a Ruby Rock. In South Texas,
I usually see Lilu and Ruby Rock. I've seen a Zorg.
I've never seen any of them.
I liked the military uniforms though, because they were both over the top but like subtle too. Like I could see that kind of functioning.
I would have rocked that uniform. I would the beret. Obviously, I would have did a little bit better with the shaping of it. But
I could wear the Monochiwan costume. That'd be about it. It might be a little snug.
Well, at my current guys, I think the only thing I'm cosplaying is a Gamorrean guard from Jedi. So
I could wear his tab.
Mandalores are better than Gamorrean guards.
Yeah. So is there anything else about the movie you think we ought to cover? Because we've been all over the place, but coming back to
it had a lot of similarities to stylistically to Blade Runner.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah, not as dark, but yes.
Yeah, it was like a Mary Poppins version of Blade Runner. As far as how it was,
Mary Poppins version.
It was very Disney. It was very bright. It was very colorful. Don't get me wrong, I love it. I think it's a visually stunning movie. But like some of the stuff that we had in Blade Runner that was dark and it was rainy and it was bullshit, they kind of like turned on, lifted the curtains a little bit and got some light in there. But there was a lot of things that went on in Blade Runner that you could also see in The Fifth Element. So I'm just assuming that the director had a little bit of inspiration from that, and I thought that was
it's hard not.
One of the things, speaking of inspiration, I like that they did is when they have that cop going through the McDonald's drive-through, but it's not McDonald's. It was a subtle. You knew it was a McDonald's, but they never called it McDonald's. So
they had the Golden Arches, man.
Yeah, it was
the Golden Arches. Those are instantly recognizable.
But it was subtle enough that you knew exactly where they were, but they didn't do it. They didn't make a big deal like, oh, they clearly got paid for that scene kind of vibe. And I really like that. And he goes, and the cop was sitting there like, I'm so thirsty, I'm going to drink this first. And what's the first thing that happens? Spills his drink because of the chase that he was supposed to be involved in. And then at the end, when he crashes, chasing him, what does he crash into? Circle right back to the McDonald's truck.
Yeah, it went full circle.
It was a McDowell's.
What's that?
Coming to America?
Yeah, that's a good one too. Pretty soon you can wash the lettuce. Then you move up to the fries, and that's where the big money comes.
Not the
And
golden
another
arches.
interesting
Golden
callback
arcs.
that you get is Bruce Willis is basically playing a very similar character to Die Hard.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
You know,
Yeah.
it's that
Yeah.
same kind of thing, and he plays it in very much the same way. And that was one of the things I thought the first time that I really watched it all the way through. I'm like, I'm watching science fiction Die Hard, and it's kind of awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
got a lot of that same
works.
feel. The guy who's got
Lot
to
of
rescue the
similarities, you're
world,
right.
But it
the
also,
everyman, it's all there.
and it
It's
was
the
so,
similarity thing again, where it's like
Mhm.
like you said, Jenna, I've seen this before.
Mm-hmm.
It made it comfortable because we were used to
Yeah.
Bruce Willis being that way. We're like, okay, Bruce Willis is going to go Bruce Willis. And it just, in this situation, it worked because he had established such a strong character in John McClane that we were all just willing to just go along with that blue collar everyman hero that that Corbin Dallas became. And I mean, if you think about it, his whole motivation is sort of all about the girl. And sort of the whole having to save the universe to get the girl is sort of like a side quest for him.
Yeah, it's John McClane in the future.
But Mila
Yeah.
Jovovich was such a great counterbalance because
Yes.
she's every bit as big of a badass as he was. She was just whooping up on some folks, and you're not used to that kind of level, at least not in '97, of a female lead being that kind of
Yeah,
character.
that's true. Yeah.
But she was still allowed to have a sense of innocence and a sense of wonder and exploration that kept
And
her
femininity.
very feminine and very adorable, even while she was kick-ass, which I think that's something we lose a lot when we get these quote unquote strong female characters. They become the men with boobs thing where they're not allowed to be everything else. But she was allowed to be all of these things that are feminine and that are cute and that are whatever. But she also said, I will protect you. And it's like, oh, that's the cutest thing ever. She's going to take care of him.
But then her
Well, and
experiences
she
with
carried that.
humanity, her experiences with all this thing, at the end, she starts to wonder, are these people really worth saving?
Worth it. Yeah.
That big iconic line where she's just like, you destroy everything.
Everything you create is used to destroy.
He's like, that's human nature, kid.
Yeah,
it's
true.
That's one of the things I liked about the actress Mila Jovovich is because she carried that on into the Resident Evil movies too. The badassness mixed with femininity, and
that's true.
It worked. It works well for her in those roles. Like even in Joan of Arc was. That was awesome. She's a phenomenal actress if you need that type of character played.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've seen her in anything but that type of role. Honestly, I did not care for her so much in Joan of Arc so much, but she did a passable job. It's just it didn't strike me, and I've never watched any of the Resident Evil films because I can't do those. It just doesn't work.
Oh, dude, don't turn your nose up on those films. That is good ass cinema.
On the whole franchise, I'm not interested in the zombie stuff. You guys love it. I will take a comedy zombie, or I'll take a George Romero zombie film, but that's pretty much it. I've tried drifting out of that. I can't. My brain can't hack it. I have heard very good things about it. I won't criticize it in that regard.
Have a beer, I guess.
No, I'd need LSD, but I think that would strip my brain.
No, you don't want LSD in Resident Evil. No, there's no coming back to that.
I
No
don't need to be near
shrooms,
it.
nothing like that.
An Exorcist,
have a
maybe?
beer and enjoy it. It's a popcorn flick. I get it, but it's an enjoyable franchise. But
I mean, the
not going to
closest I get to that is Zombieland. But anyway,
Zombieland's also good.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, she does well with that character type, and that's a good thing. So I don't know if she's ever. Does anybody know of anything else she's done outside of that?
I do.
What?
She was the love interest in a Christian Slater movie called Cuffs.
Oh my God, she was in that.
Oh, such a bad movie.
I've only heard of it as a bad movie. I've never seen it.
It's one of those movies that's so bad it's kind of awesome. It's like Killer Clowns from Outer Space. It's like it's so bad it's awesome.
Okay, that I like. It's so dumb.
Yeah.
It's no
That was
cleaning
the
the
second
queue.
thing I saw him in. I saw Christian Slater in Young Guns, and then I think the next thing I saw him in was either Heathers or Cuffs after Young Guns 2.
Heathers were Karens before Karens were Karens.
Yeah. And I was excited for Cuffs till I saw it.
That solidified my crush with Winona Ryder. I'm just saying.
No.
And I carry that flame to this day.
I did not realize that she was in Chaplin, of all things. A couple of years before Fifth Element.
Whew.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we are starting to ramble, and I noticed we're losing a little bit of steam, so we're going to bring this puppy to a close. We've got more movies, apparently, that we need to review. But with that being said, Miss Melissa McShane, what are you writing now, and where can listeners and readers, viewers at home find you on the Wild Wild Interwebs?
Okay, I am switching between projects. I am writing the War Master Lit RPG Fantasy Adventure series, which is coming up on a close, and I am writing a romance series about a group of women who are all gamers in the same gaming group and the men they fall in love with. And you can find me at melissamcShaneWrites.com. I'm on Facebook as Melissa McShane and on X, Twitter, as M. McShane Writes. Yeah, and that's it.
All right, Jenna S. Brown, Jenna Ray, and the many other personalities. What are you writing right now, and where can they find you online?
Right now, I am writing urban fantasy. I am working on the second book in a series that I started long ago, and I'm hoping to get that done because it deserves to come to fruition. So I'm working on that, and I'm working on some random short stories too, just to kind of stretch things, which is kind of fun. I like doing that. It's our connection with Three Ravens. They have so many fun calls that it's like, nah, I got to get in there and dabble. And they've got there's a steampunk one coming up, and I've never written steampunk before, and I'm looking at it and going, maybe I got to do that. So doing some fun stuff there. I can be found at opalkingdompress.com, and then you can find under Janet S. Brown Writes all over the interwebs and Amazon, or Jenna Ray, again, all over the internet and all over Amazon. So I'm not hard to find.
All right, Michael LaVoice, what are you writing now, and where can they find you online?
Right now I'm working on book 3 of Gladius Leagues, which is a quasi-military sci-fi alien invasion NFL WWE Mech Warrior mashup. And
it's really good.
It's a lot of fun. I'm about 20, almost 30,000 words into book 3, and I'm working on that. And then after that, I'm planning on creating a little military sci-fi new universe with Peter Stanley, speaking of Three Ravens, author of the Cab Dev Cycle. And after that, I'll be putting together my Charlie Hawk saga, which I introduced in Tales of the E4 Mafia, which is an anthology that came out recently that features a group of space defense artillery maintenance people who get stuck behind enemy lines and use their abilities to fix stuff to do the opposite.
Okay, sounds good. Madam Chloe, what are you writing right now, and where can they find you?
I am working on book 8 of a sprawling gas lamp fantasy universe that I've been working on for many years now, and closing out a lot of arcs and getting this to a nice resting point. The series is not over. I will be back, but it's time to go do fan service and get some more books written in series that people have been waiting on for a long time. So from here, I'm pivoting into space opera, and I'll be wrapping up my year writing space opera novels.
Nice.
Yes, it's going to be a big. I'm taking a 2-week break in the middle where I'm just going to write short stuff and random stuff so that I can hit that transition without actually trying to pull the corner, because that's a really sharp corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. You can find me at chloegarner.com. It's also known as blunderfiction.com. It's that same idea of you just put everything in, hit the blend button, and see what comes out. Or you can find me being live and in person on my Facebook group. That's my favorite place to connect with readers these days.
For a second, I thought you said blunderbuss fiction, and I'm like, okay, Gaslamp, blunderbuss. I could
Go there.
Yeah.
All right, MD Boncherie. What are you writing, and how can they find you?
Well, currently I am working on a more traditional style science fiction because I got told by multiple people I have to stop being so niche. Anyway, so I am working on a project that is tentatively titled Mech Family Robinson because what else do you need other than to have a classic tale amped up with giant stompy robots? Go figure, right?
Color me interested.
Oh yeah, I mean, I'm slowly flicking my way through. Now I just have to get some of my distractions shoved bodily out of the way. I have a few short stories that I've been writing for their, as Jenna pointed out, with so many tasty submission requests out there or anthologies. I've got a couple going for that as well. So we'll see how many get picked up and taken on. But yeah, I'm looking forward to finding some more things to get inspired by. And then hopefully it'll be back to dark epic fantasy and finish off the trilogy story arc for the Okinawazi saga. So otherwise I'm going to end up getting the Paul Sheldon treatment by my wife.
That would be bad.
She likes my fantasy the most.
That's a good thing, though. It's a good problem to have. All right, last but certainly not least, we have Mr. Lynn Barry. What are you writing right now, and where can they find you?
I can be found at my needs to be updated website, len-barry.com. I am working on, I'm trying to get some momentum to finally get done with my biopunk magical girl book, Queens of the Apocalypse. I'm trying to get started a mech setting called Red Comet, intentional reference in that title. And I'm about to release Loyalty of Severus, the first of a big epic sci-fi. I think of it as Dune for trans girls. So
interesting.
Good. Yeah.
That's a interesting. Got to be a little bit different. So I'll take it.
Being different.
What's that?
I love being different.
I mean, you got to be different, but same, right? Like, I mean, if you want to make money at it, that's what they tell me.
Yep.
Are you publishing this yourself, or is this going through a publisher?
Me.
Okay. All right. When you get that out, you'll have to come back and we'll talk about it on the show as a solo episode. Because
happy to join you.
We like talking about all the weird niche things. So, and eventually we're going to have Nick finish his comic book, and so he can come and talk to us about it specifically. No pressure, Nick.
One day.
One day.
But I'm drawn like 3 of them, so it's like I'm racing against myself to which book I'm going to finish.
Yeah.
All right.
Never happens to the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you do what you can. All right. And with that being said, you can find us on our Linktree, linktr.ee, Linktree/Blasters and Blades podcast, where we link to all the things, the bits, shoots, the rumbles, the YouTubes, the TikToks, the Twitter. We have our email, blastersandbladespodcast@gmail.com, for professional purposes only. Yes, Eula voice. I know what kind of crap you sent in. We have our Blasters and Blades Facebook group and Facebook.
Can't prove that.
That's true. Yeah, plausible deniability. We have Madam Stabby Stab on the Instagram, Twitter, and email, and we have our website, which is a bunch of gobbledygook. Thank you, Spotify. But if you go to that link in the link tree, you can find us and support us for as little as 99 cents a month. You can help keep the lights on. These episodes aren't free to produce, and we appreciate your patronage. Or you could support the show more directly over at buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Again, buymeacoffee.com/author J.R. Handley. Be sure to put in the comment section that it's for the podcast. I promise I will keep my co-host duly caffeinated. They will drink that coffee brand coffee until it pours out of their hair. It'll ring out. I got to do better than that. We'll just move on. Speaking of that coffee brand coffee, use the link in the show notes. Code podcast grunts and you get 10% off. You get a discount. We get a kickback. It's a win-win, people. And with that, thank you for spending some of your precious time with us. For my crazy co-host, I am J.R. Hanley, and this was the Blasters and Blades podcast. We'll be back next week at the same time, where we'll indulge our love of nerd culture, cheesy jokes, and all things that go boom. And last, certainly not least, Nick is going to inappropriately use the banners that float around the bottom of the screen. So if you're only listening to us on the podcast audio version, you are missing out on peak comedy or boomer comedy. I don't know.
YouTube and the bit shoots and the rumbles. You got to see the video, man.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And with that, thank you everyone for coming on. This was a lot of fun.
Oh, I had a blast.
Be
Thank
sure to
you. I
hit
was about to say, I hadn't seen a
Thank you.
banner
That
the
was
whole
really
time.
fun. Yeah.
I know Nick was
Yeah, I
slacking
was
tonight.
slipping. I know. I just the damn cyclist threw me off.
I
Hated it.
know.
And with
Yeah.
that,
I was
boom,
so
we'll
mad.
hit
I was still mad when I got
Bye-bye,
home. And that was
y'all.
20 minutes
You are
after.
still mad.